It never starts with a bang. It's a slow unraveling, one so subtle most people don't realize it's happening until it's too late. You don't just wake up frail at 85, you arrive there in stages, each one paved with choices so small they don't seem to matter. Until they do. You stop walking to the store because the sidewalk seems longer. You avoid small talk because your hearing's just a bit off today. You tell yourself you're simplifying, but what you're really doing is disconnecting. And in that disconnection, a quiet kind of decay begins. This isn't just about health. This is about vitality, the invisible thread that keeps the body moving, the brain alert, and the spirit willing. Today we're going to explore the first 2 of 6 hidden threats that often cut life short after 80. Not because of disease, not because of genetics, but because of invisible habits that slowly steal life without ever asking permission. If you're someone who cares about longevity, about senior health, about preserving the life lessons from the elderly and keeping elderly wisdom alive, not just in memory, but in presence, this is your moment. Listen closely because what we'll uncover here could mean the difference between simply surviving your 80s and truly living them. If this resonates with you, if you value motivation, inspiration, and stories that bring meaning to aging, please like, subscribe, and turn on the bell. Now let's begin. It was something Dr. Rosalind Graham, an 84-year-old retired psychologist from Oregon, once said that captured this idea perfectly. You think they get old and so they stop doing things. But what actually happens is they stop doing things, and that's how they get old. When you listen to the elderly reflections of those who've aged gracefully, they all say the same thing in different words. Staying alive means staying connected. And yet one of the most silent threats to aging well is the erosion of what experts call micro-social engagement. These aren't your birthday parties or Sunday dinners. They're the tiny everyday moments of being seen by the world. A nod from your neighbor, a 5-slip chat with your barista, the "hey, how's it going" from the same guy walking his dog each morning. These seem forgettable, but they're not. They are essential. Neuroscience now confirms that these small interactions light up areas of the brain tied to emotion regulation, memory, attention, and even immunity. They stimulate a cascade of neurochemicals that literally signal, you are alive, you are connected, you still matter. But after 80, those moments often vanish. Sometimes it starts with weather, just one too many cold mornings that keep you from going outside. Sometimes it's a minor fall, or declining hearing, or a pandemic that normalized delivery apps in isolation. You skip the coffee run, you stop going to the pharmacy yourself. Before you know it, your day has shrunk to 4 walls and a screen. You're still breathing, but your nervous system is starving for interaction. That's what happened to 84-year-old Harold Lewis from Charleston. For years, Harold was a familiar face at the local bakery. He went every morning, had the same muffin, joked with the same staff, waved to the same dog walkers. But after a minor toe injury, he stopped going. It didn't seem like much at first. He told himself it was temporary, but 1 week turned to 3, then to months. When his daughter visited 6 months later, Harold had lost weight, seemed more forgetful, and had little interest in conversation. It wasn't disease, it was disconnection. When the brain receives fewer social cues, it begins pruning away the neural networks that handle memory and emotional balance. Cortisol rises, inflammation increases, immunity drops, all from a lack of hello. The tragedy is that most people think they're just simplifying life, when in fact, they're unplugging from it. And here's the irony. You don't need deep conversations to stay sharp. Even 5-leg exchanges can preserve cognition. You don't need new friends, just regular moments of micro-connection. That's why seniors who thrive into their late 80s and 90s often have routines anchored in consistency. A short daily walk to the cafe, a wave to the same 3 people at the park, a phone call to the clerk who recognizes their voice. It's not about being social, it's about staying human. The loss of microsocial engagement isn't dramatic. It doesn't come with sirens or scans. It just fades until one day you find yourself not missing it because your brain has already started to forget it was ever important. But once you remember, you can reclaim it, because the most powerful medicine in the world isn't a pill, it's the message we give ourselves daily. I still belong. And yes, we'll revisit Harold once more in this final section and discover how something unexpected pulled him back from that quiet decline. But before we get there, we need to talk about the second invisible thief. Now let's look at a different kind of danger, the kind that wears the mask of wisdom. Reason number 2, overcautious inactivity. It starts innocently enough. You trip once on uneven pavement. You strain your back reaching for something under the sink. You tell yourself you'll just take it easy for a few days. But then a week goes by, then another. Soon your routine becomes one of sitting, of skipping steps, of handing tasks off to others. People around you say you're smart, that you're just being careful. But what they don't realize is this: the body isn't a machine that gets better with rest. It's a garden. And when you stop moving, the garden begins to wither. Your core muscles, the deep trunk muscles, responsible for balance, lifting, and you lose your ability to trust your own body. That's when fear creeps in. And fear, once it enters the body, starts issuing orders like a dictator. Don't bend, don't stretch, don't reach, don't walk too far. Before long, you're no longer protecting yourself, you're disappearing. Let's revisit someone real. Walter Myers, age 83, used to walk a mile every night through his old neighborhood in Tampa. Then one stormy evening he slipped. No injury, just a scare, but it rattled him. He stopped walking, said he'd wait until the weather got better. But weeks passed, the habit never resumed. 6 months later, his legs trembled after only 10 steps. He had lost nearly 10 pounds of muscle. His doctor warned him, but it wasn't about bones. It was about brain circuitry. Walter wasn't weak when he stopped. He became weak because he stopped. It's a phenomenon known as disuse atrophy. But even deeper than that, it's nervous system regression. When you stop moving, your proprioceptive sensors, the ones that tell your body where you are in space, begin to shut down. Your inner balance falters. You start doubting yourself. And doubt is a thief. It steals ambition. It steals autonomy. And if left unchecked, it steals life. There's a line between caution and surrender. Protecting yourself doesn't mean avoiding all risk. It means managing risk, wearing shoes with grip, using a cane if needed, installing handrails. But not moving? That's not protection, that's rehearsal for disappearance. And here's something powerful to remember. Every time you move, you remind your body it's needed. You activate neural circuits. You release energy molecules that say, this life is still in progress. That's why the elders who stay alive past 80, truly alive, are the ones who keep moving. Not fast, not recklessly, but deliberately. They stretch, they reach. They walk even if only for 5 minutes a day. They don't stop because of fear. They move through it. And in doing so, they show the rest of us something vital. Aging is not a descent. It is a choice shaped by 1,000 micro decisions each day. And while we can't stop the years, we can choose how deeply we participate in them. So if you've caught yourself hesitating to move, not because you physically can't, but because you're afraid of what might happen, pause and ask yourself, is this caution or is this retreat? And if you love someone over 80, don't just tell them to be careful. Tell them to move safely, purposefully, and often. Because movement is how we remember our bodies still matter. And when your body believes it still matters, it fights to stay. And speaking of staying, there's one factor that might matter even more than movement. In the second section, we'll explore how light, the kind that hits your eyes before 10 a.m., may be one of the most powerful yet overlooked remedies for the aging body. We'll meet Helen, 84, who transformed her health with just 20 minutes a day. And we'll show you exactly how to reprogram your body's circadian rhythm, boost memory and lower inflammation, all without leaving your front porch. But for now, remember this: connection and motion are the foundation of lasting vitality. Not because they keep your heart beating, but because they remind it why it should. Not all enemies come wearing the face of illness. Some arrive dressed as habit, others as silence. In this chapter of our story, we move into deeper territory, the kind of slow diverting traps that erode the will to thrive without ever showing up on a medical chart. One of them starts right in your bedroom with something as simple as the light bulbs you use. The other begins in your chest, in a place no one else can see, but everyone eventually feels loss. And if you or someone you love is over the age of 80, these next two factors may quietly be doing more damage than age itself. But once we understand them, we can fight back. The human body was not designed to fade gently. It was built to rise every morning with rhythm and to rest each night with peace. And what you're about to learn will show you exactly how to restore both, even after years of silent struggle. Let's begin with something invisible: light. More specifically, irregular light exposure, which leads to something many seniors live with but don't understand: circadian disruption. You see, inside your body is a clock, not one that ticks, but one that pulses, sends signals, governs hormones, metabolism, and mood. It tells your brain when to release melatonin, When to wake up, when to feel alert, when to repair cells. That clock is called your circadian rhythm. And after 80, it becomes frighteningly fragile. One missed signal from light, and it slips off balance. Suddenly, you find yourself sleeping during the day, awake at night, unfocused or even depressed without knowing why. The problem? Most older adults don't get enough bright light in the morning, and far too much artificial light at night. Think about it. Maybe you used to garden outside each morning. Now it's too chilly, so you stay in. Maybe your knees ache, so you skip the morning walk. Maybe you've replaced it all with a cup of tea and the television. And at night, you leave the TV on, or scroll through your phone. You leave bright lamps on until you're ready for bed. And over time, your body forgets when it's supposed to sleep, when it's supposed to heal. What used to be a stable rhythm becomes chaos. And the worst part, you think it's just aging. But it's not. It's light starvation. We saw this happen to 85-year-old Lorraine Parker, a retired music teacher from Des Moines. Her family thought she was developing early dementia. She had trouble sleeping, grew anxious in the evenings, and seemed disoriented during the day. But her doctor noticed something most people miss. Lorraine rarely went outside. Her morning routine consisted of coffee and a morning news show on her iPad. She kept her blinds closed. At night, she stayed up with the living room lights on and TV buzzing in the background. The doctor prescribed no drugs. Instead, he gave her a strange assignment: 20 minutes of morning sun by an open window, within an hour of waking. No screens after 8 p.m., and dim lights by 9 o'clock. It stabilizes mood, boosts metabolism, and regulates sleep. At night, dimming your lights, turning off screens, and letting darkness return prepares the body to release melatonin. And melatonin isn't just about sleep. It's an anti-inflammatory, a neuroprotector. It's nature's night nurse. And most seniors are deficient in it, not because their bodies can't produce it, but because their light schedule is out of sync. That's why one of the most powerful senior health tips you'll ever hear isn't about medicine, it's about light. Morning light tells your brain, we're still here, let's start the day. Darkness at night whispers, you can rest now. You're safe. This is why nursing homes that expose residents to bright morning light have fewer falls, less agitation, better sleep, and even fewer infections. Because circadian alignment regulates immunity, it lowers cortisol, it restores cognitive flow. So if you or someone you love is over 80, start the day outside or by a sunny window. Let your eyes receive that signal. And at night, turn the screens off. Let darkness return. Let your body remember its ancient rhythm. Let your cells hear again what nature has been trying to say. You're not done yet. But even if your light and sleep are aligned, there's another threat that can quietly shorten a life from the inside out. And this one has nothing to do with light and everything to do with loss. Grief, loss, suppressed emotion. By the time someone reaches 80, they've likely outlived their parents, many friends. Perhaps they've said goodbye more times than anyone should in society. It tells them to be strong, to move on. That grief is something private. That if you've lost someone 5 years ago, it shouldn't still be affecting you. But here's the truth. The body remembers. It remembers who you miss, even when your words don't say it. It remembers the love that was never said out loud, the apology that never came, the hand you used to hold. And if that grief is not processed, if it is not spoken or felt or shared, it doesn't go away. It goes inward, and it becomes disease. Let's talk about George Stanton, 87, a retired mechanic from St. Paul. George lost his wife of 62 years, Irene, 2 winters ago. He didn't cry at the funeral, didn't speak much about her afterward, told everyone he was doing fine, but within months his health began to falter. He lost his appetite, slept less, started forgetting things. He stopped going to his community center. His spark was gone, not because of illness, but because of unspoken grief. His doctor asked him, gently, if he ever talked to anyone about it. George said, what for? Talking won't bring her back. But what George didn't know is that grief, when held in silence, becomes inflammation. It tightens the chest, clogs the gut, wrecks the nervous system. Emotional suppression increases mortality. It's not a metaphor, it's a medical fact. What helps? Emotional ventilation. The ability to say, I miss her, or I'm still angry, or I feel alone. Seniors who live longer, those with high resilience and mental clarity, usually have an emotional outlet. Sometimes it's a journal, sometimes it's a friend, sometimes it's prayer, or a weekly group where they're allowed to feel something without being told to stop. And when the heart can finally breathe, the immune system follows, healing follows, presence returns, Because grief is not weakness, it's proof you loved. And love doesn't disappear, it only changes form. But if you deny it, it calcifies. If you feel it, it transforms. And this is where the elderly wisdom becomes most sacred. The longest living elders often say the same thing in different words. Don't carry it alone. And they're right, you shouldn't. Because the more we share grief, the more room we make for life. So if you are over 80 or love someone who is, don't just ask how they're sleeping. Ask, who have you lost? Who do you still miss? What haven't you said aloud in years? And if you're listening right now and those questions hurt, that's okay. That means there's still something in you that remembers how much it mattered. That's not pain. That's life asking to be felt again. In the final section, we'll discuss the ultimate reason most people fade after 80. The most silent yet devastating factor of all. The erosion of purpose. When your days lose meaning, your body follows. But you'll also hear about Ruth, 89, and how her purpose was nothing glamorous. Just postcards, soup, and a 4 p.m. window. Ritual. And yet it may have been what saved her. We'll also revisit Harold from the earlier section, and how one unexpected interaction helped him break free from isolation and regain his sense of purpose. But until then, remember this. You are not fading, you are feeling. And that's not a signal to hide. It's a sign you're still alive. It's not a heart attack that extinguishes most lives after 80. It's not the final fall. Not even the final diagnosis. It's something far quieter, more elusive. It's when days begin to blend, when mornings arrive without momentum, when you open your eyes and nothing calls you forward. This is the final and often most devastating reason many seniors begin to decline after 80. We call it loss of daily purpose. Not grand life purpose. Not a big vision or a legacy carved in stone. No, this is simpler, more intimate. The kind of purpose that lives inside the smallest routines. Watering the plants before the sun gets hot, feeding the bird that waits outside your kitchen window, writing a card to your granddaughter every Monday, calling a friend just because it's Tuesday. These aren't chores, these are anchors. And when those little rituals disappear, something else disappears with them. Identity. The truth is, the human body stays alive only as long as it believes it is needed. The systems that power our brain, our organs, our blood flow, they're not just biological. They're behavioral, they respond to momentum, relevance, responsibility. When the brain no longer sees a reason to rise, the body follows. Movement slows, immunity weakens, even appetite fades, because somewhere deep inside the unconscious mind, the signal has shifted from, I'm still to maybe it's time to go. And the shift is rarely dramatic. It starts with something like this. Your bridge group ends, your volunteer role stops, your friend stops calling. You tell yourself it's normal, that it's aging. But what it really is detachment. And detachment is how the flame dims. But it doesn't have to be this way. Not if you reclaim even the smallest purpose. I remember Ruth Halpern, 89 years old, from Flagstaff, Arizona. She had no surviving children. Her husband passed away 18 years earlier. Her hands were arthritic, her eyesight fading. But Ruth had a schedule. Every Monday morning she wrote 5 postcards to shut-ins from her local church. Every Thursday she made soup, packed it into containers, and froze them for a local shelf. Every single day, at 4:00 p.m. sharp, she sat by her front window, not to watch the news, but to wave to the school kids walking home. She knew their names, they knew hers. Some even waved back with both hands. It wasn't flashy, but it gave her day shape. It told her, you still matter. And that's the secret most people never hear. You don't need big goals, you need continuity. You need your brain to know that something happens today that won't happen unless you do it. Purpose, even tiny purpose, is like oxygen for your will to live. And when you give that purpose structure, something to do, someone to greet, some task to finish, your body listens, it activates, it engages. It begins at a cellular level to fight for another day. Now let's close the loop from earlier. Remember Harold, the 84-year-old who stopped visiting the bakery after a minor foot injury? For 6 months, he isolated, lost muscle, lost spark. But what brought him back wasn't medicine. It was a knock on his door. A young neighbor named Calvin had noticed Harold's absence. He showed up one morning and said, "Hey, I miss seeing you around. I walk my dog every morning. You want to join?" Harold said no. Then a week later, he opened the door at 7:15 a.m., shoes on, and just like that, a ritual was born. It wasn't about the dog. It was about the interaction, the consistency, the return of something that told his body, we're still in this. 3 weeks in, Harold started going back to the bakery. 2 months later, he joined a local discussion group. It wasn't a transformation overnight, it was re-engagement by thread until the fabric of life began to knit itself back together. Which brings us to the final reason so many people fade quietly after 80. The accumulation of tiny decisions that signal "I'm done" before the body ever gives out. It's not just the loss of connection, or the drop in movement, or the out-of-signal sleep, or the hidden grief, or even the lost routines, each one whispering, "Let's do less, let's shrink a little, let's stop trying." And the tragedy? It's that no one notices until one day. The light is barely on. But here's the good news. Just as decline comes in stages, so does revival. One micro-interaction, one morning stretch, one 20-minute sit in the sun, one small errand done by foot instead of online, one journal entry, one confession, one reason to get out of bed. You don't have to restart everything, you just have to resume something. Because the human body isn't asking for perfection, it's asking for participation. And here's something beautiful. Research now confirms that seniors who feel needed, who are responsible for something or someone, no matter how small, have higher resilience scores, lower rates of inflammation, stronger immune systems, and even sharper memory. Elderly wisdom doesn't come just from having lived long. It comes from still being engaged with life on your terms, at your pace, with meaning only you define. There's a quote from a 91-year-old painter I once interviewed that I'll never forget. I asked her what kept her going. She said, "I still have something to say. And while I have that, my body listens." That is what this is about, keeping something to say and letting your body rise to help you say it. So as we close this story, ask yourself, which of the 6 reasons resonated the most? Which one hit uncomfortably close to home? Was it the silence of microsocial disengagement? The trap of cautious inactivity? The disarray caused by misaligned light? The weight of unspoken grief? The ache of lost routine? Today, even just a little. Because whether you're 60 or 86, your body is still listening, still waiting, still willing to follow your lead. If you give it one, we cannot stop time, but we can stop fading. If we choose to live with rhythm, reconnect with others, release what still aches, restore our schedule, and reclaim our role in the world. Even in the simplest of ways, we don't just grow old, we grow forward. So now it's your turn. What's one thing you'll do today to relight your rhythm? To restore a habit that once mattered? To connect again, to feel again, to move again? Tell us in the comments. Your reflections help others. Your choices echo further than you know. Because the wisdom of our elders isn't found in their age, it's found in their choices, and yours might just keep someone else alive too.